As for version 24, there really aren't a lot of new features that are applicable to us. If you go into the Help menu and have a look at Documentation, Archicad 24 Reference Guide, what you'll find is there's a section in here called New Features, and you can go through this list and have a look yourself. There's really not a lot that, as I say, is applicable to us. There's a new structural and analytical model, which we won't use. The map modeler we possibly could use, but I don't think we will. It allows us to do things like ducting for air conditioners and things. That might be the only thing that we would use it for, but it's a way of connecting hot and cold water systems and other such electrical ducting and all that sort of thing. Piping, it's a way of doing that. I don't think we will do that very often. Even with air conditioning, we'll basically show an air conditioning layout. We don't need to go through and do all the 3D ducting and things like that. Model checking, again, it's something we probably won't need to use. It's to do with structural analytical type things as well, so we probably won't use any of that. Collaboration is to do things with teamwork, projects, stuff which we don't do. Model comparison, possibly, because we can compare two models and tell what the differences are between them, but again, I don't think that's something we would need to use very often. We can literally compare two PLNs and see what the differences are, but I don't think there's a lot of value in it. Issue management we don't use. BIM Cloud we don't use. Geometry Exchange with Revit, that used to be an add-on that we had to load. The Geometry Exchange basically is now part of Archicad, so it's installed automatically. And that just allows us to open Revit files, which I can just show you quickly if you like. You go File, Libraries and Objects, import RFA file as a GDL object. So if you find an RFA Revit file, say a Chroma Sync or some other websites where you've got different objects that you want to bring in, couches, sofas, tables and things like that, a lot of the times you'll find them in Revit format and not Archicad format. We can now bring them in directly and import them as an object. They won't come in perfectly, but that doesn't do a bad job at it. So that's something we can do. As I say, that's just now built into Archicad. Productivity wise, they've come up with new library content. I've added a lot of these objects to our 24 library, so all of these things are actually part of the Archicad library. As I say, I can import Revit family as GDL objects now with the Revit add-on. Polyline editing, apparently there's something new about polyline editing. Intersection now works between two or more independent polylines. It's just something you just experiment with when you're connecting lines and polylines and things like that. The rest of these are really not, again, something that we would use. If you're into some experimental features, they've got in here JSON and Python APIs. It's all to do with programming. If you feel inclined to do that, I'm not going to tell you about it, but if you feel inclined to look at that and you know anything about it, feel free. We don't use Max, but they've now got a dark mode system where you can get the dark screen icons and things, toolbars. And apparently there's now a new BIMx desktop viewer. It's changed slightly, but again, I don't think we will notice any difference with what we do, except for the desktop viewer now has the hypermodel, so it has the ability to have the PDFs in it, whereas before only your apps on your iPhones or Android phones could have the hypermodels, whereas now the desktop version actually does as well. And it has global illumination included. So instead of now waiting when you save the BIMx model out, you had an option to tick to say include global illumination, and it used to take longer to create. It's now part of the actual BIMx program itself, so it creates that global illumination on the fly. And that really is all the new features, so not really anything much different. So as far as we're concerned, the new features of 23 are the new features of 24.